Thank you.
Hello everyone, it's me Samuel Taylor Ackroyd and good morning from Edinburgh Airport. Today I will be flying with Ryanair on board one of their Boeing 737-800s over to Knock Ireland West Airport in the Republic of Ireland. This morning I got to Edinburgh Airport via one of the CityLink buses as one of them goes near my house. After arriving just outside the terminal building, I made my way upstairs to security. Since I had a mobile boarding pass and no luggage to check in, there was no need to go to the Ryanair bag drop area, which is located in check-in zone A. This morning, the security experience was flawless and very quick, and after I passed through security, I headed through the duty-free store, but didn't spend any time looking around or spend any money in here, and just made my way to the main departure lounge. At the time of filming, the Costa Coffee that used to be in the departure lounge at Edinburgh Airport had unfortunately closed. And the process of turning it into a Starbucks was underway, which is a shame for me as I sure did enjoy those bacon rolls and the cups of tea that I used to get from there every morning, whenever I travelled on one of the first wave flights that would normally depart at around 6 o'clock in the morning. For lunch, I decided to visit the All Bar One restaurant adjacent to Departure Gate 6, and I decided to have some fish and chips along with an alcohol-free cider. After finishing off my lunch, I made my way towards the gate that we would be boarding our flight over to Knock from, which would be Departure Gate 14. Just next to our gate is this beautiful Qatar Airways Airbus A350-900, which had just arrived on stand having just flown in from Doha in Qatar. Thanks to the existence of Flight Radar 24, I was able to track our aircraft and saw that it wouldn't be long before the boarding process would start, as the aircraft had just turned onto its final approach, about to complete its flight from Kaunas in Lithuania. Eventually, the boarding process got underway soon after our aircraft arrived on stand, and after having to wait a few more minutes in the gate area, we were able to finally board the aircraft. As we were boarding, I managed to get some great views of the Qatar Airways A350 parked just next to our aircraft. But sadly, this A350 wasn't going to be the aircraft that I was flying on today. Maybe at some point in the future it will be though. The aircraft that would fly me over to Knock this afternoon would be this Boeing 737-800 registered as Echo India-Echo Papa Delta, which at the time was 12 years old and has flown with Ryanair all its life. Today I would be boarding from the back door as my seat would be near the back of the aircraft. This 737 is equipped with the older Ryanair seats, which many say they find more comfortable, but I personally find the older and the newer seats just as comfortable as each other, but that's just my own opinion. My seat today is 23A, which unfortunately didn't have a very clean window, so the takeoff and landing footage certainly won't be the greatest today, unfortunately. Anyway, boarding was soon completed and we were soon pushing back to get ready to head to Knock, so enjoy the taxi footage and the takeoff from runway 24 at Edinburgh.
Of an emergency evacuation, you must leave all your hand baggage behind. To fasten a seatbelt is given by the crew are followed. We would like to remind you that smoking is not permitted anywhere on board. Your hand baggage must be securely stowed in the overhead locker or under the seat in front of you, and it must not block any aisle or exit. Now please ensure that your seatbelt is securely fastened and stowed in your cabin baggage for takeoff and landing. Thank you for your attention. Please sit back, relax, and...
I think a lot of us on board, including myself, got a bit startled when we heard that sit down announcement, as the crew member sounded rather alarmed when she went over the PA system, which led to a lot of people looking around to see who was standing. The passenger did listen to the announcement and did sit down right away. The seats on board Ryanair's 737-800s offer more legroom than those on Ryanair's newer 737 MAX aircraft, and is good enough for someone who is roughly 6 feet tall for a short flight like this one. The tray table is large and sturdy, much bigger than those on the newer seats, and also has an indent for a drink. Since there are no seat back pockets, the safety cards are printed onto the back of the seats in front of you, as well as a QR code to scan for Ryanair's onboard menu. More on that shortly. Above the seats are the call bells for the crew's attention, air vents, reading lights, as well as the fasten seatbelt and no smoking signs. As for the bathrooms, well, apart from the fact that there was some bits of tissue scattered in a few places, they were clean mostly and in good working order, and also had everything that was needed. As I mentioned earlier, there is a QR code for you to scan that takes you to Ryanair's Buy On Board menu on the Ryanair app, so make sure the app is downloaded on your phone before you fly with Ryanair. The Buy On Board menu has a good amount of food and drinks on offer, as well as duty free, including some aircraft models, which I was tempted to buy, but in the end didn't. As the flight was less than an hour long, it wasn't long before we started descending. However, unfortunately, because the window was so dirty and scratched, the views weren't exactly the best. And I didn't really get any decent clips from filming out of the window, but I still recorded the landing into Knock Ireland West Airport, so here's the arrival onto runway 26. We touched down on runway 26 15 minutes ahead of schedule. We then had to backtrack the runway since there is only one taxiway that goes between the runway and the stands. And there was no taxiway leading to the other end of the runway, like there normally is at most airports. Once again, I had another great experience with Ryanair. The crew were very friendly, despite one of them startling us all over the PA system, but for a good reason. And I find the seats on Ryanair to offer a reasonable level of comfort. The flight was also fantastic value for money as well. I paid £17.15 for the basic fare, which only entitled me to bring a small bag that goes under the seat in front of me. I also paid an extra £8 to select seat 23A, so I paid a total of £25.15. Which is fantastic value for money and why I enjoy flying with Ryanair so much, as they offer such irresistible cheap fares. I also asked the crew if I could pay a visit to the flight deck after landing, and they were very accommodating. After disembarking, it was just a quick check of my passport at passport control, and soon after I made my way to the cafe bar, which is located upstairs from the check-in counters, which offers such fantastic views of the apron. I spent a bit of time watching the aircraft that I just flew in on begin the return flight to Edinburgh, enjoying a drink and waiting for my bus. Thanks so much for watching this trip report, and thank you Ryanair for another great experience. Stay safe, and I will see you all in the next video.